And now, Rate That Album, Season 3, with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Two guys who know stuff.
Hi, and welcome back to Rate That Album, a back and forth album review between myself, Joseph Fremming, and my good friend Paul Muad'Dib. Paul, are you too high? You too high, but you ain't touched the sky?
I am too high to be on this fucking podcast tonight. Yes, absolutely.
On the Delta 9 there, Paul? Or
No, you remember they legalized the is it the Delta? Yeah, they did. They what is that, 50 milligrams here? Yeah, I might be on some edibles legally.
I'm just on good old caffeine, wrecking my body after election week. People, if you don't know, I work in newspapers and news media. It's wild. I'm still recovering. I think the country's still recovering. Just everybody just let it recover.
Yeah, absolutely. It's God damn it! You bring up politics, I start sneezing.
Well,
that's right. I'm allergic. No, go ahead.
Kind of a political album, Paul.
We did. Oh, we absolutely did. Tricky Dick, buddy.
Tricky Dick. Yeah, I decided just on a whim because I like this album quite a bit, but I haven't listened to it in many years. I decided to go with Stevie Wonder's Innervisions from 1973. Paul, before we get into it, let's what are your thoughts on Stevie Wonder in general? I know I have my critiques of Mr. Wonder, but I'd like to hear yours first.
So when I was a kid, my mom listened to I Just Called to Say I Love You, and several other of the 80s Stevie Wonder songs. That was the Stevie Wonder I knew, which was fine, light rock, light R&B, that type of thing. When we got into high school and things like that, you start getting kind of in the counterculture, things of that nature. And man, I got into early Stevie Wonder, and I was like, holy shit, the same guy that wrote this did these songs? So I did not realize just how many albums, though, Stevie had done. The guy's freaking prolific. And this album, I knew very well because Higher Ground is just a phenomenal song, and we'll get there. And this Too High and Don't You Worry About a Thing. I mean, this is, I think, a really groundbreaking album in my mind. What about you, Joe?
Yeah, I was in the same boat, like when we were growing up, because everywhere was I Just Called to Say I Love You and all that. And then again, like you and I are in high school, we were both very much record dorks.
Yes, we were.
We read books on bands.
Yes, we did.
Both of us did.
We both did, yes.
Yeah, and so around that time, I listened, started listening on CDs, and I picking them up, and one of them was Innervisions by Stevie Wonder, and it kind of blew my mind, because I didn't really, this is the guy who was like mostly, I associated with, the 80s pop, and then like the little Stevie Wonder stuff from Motown.
Yep.
But holy shit, he had a lot to say on this album when I first heard it, and a lot of it, it was hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
We're pretty young. So.
We're pretty young, yep.
So yeah, that's how I came across it, and then it kind of started dawning on you, like these songs on some of the classic rock stations, we grew up with. I didn't even know it was Stevie Wonder, I would say, like Superstition. Like I just thought it was like another R&B band or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fucking solid song.
That's a solid fucking song.
That's Signed, Sealed, Delivered.
Signed, Sealed, Delivered. Yep. Yep.
Dance on Reggae Woman, Boogie on Reggae Woman, and stuff like that. Came across when I started getting into the jam bands. So
You're the Sunshine of My Life.
Sir Duke.
What else was there? That Girl.
Living for the City.
Master Blaster.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
So I mean, this is a we do a lot. We've covered a lot. What 2+ years we've been doing this. And
Yep.
when I say musical genius, so this is the second one. I would say Zappa was the first musical genius that we've kind of dealt with, and Stevie Wonder absolutely is a musical genius.
Yeah, I throw around musical genius a lot more loosely than you do. I do it, and I know I'm doing hyperbole when I do that, by the way. But when you bring up true musical geniuses, yeah, I would agree with you. Zappa and Stevie Wonder here. These are, I mean, again, every album. When you go back and look through Stevie's catalog, pretty much every album had something that resonated. I mean, again, this is his 16th album.
Yeah.
And this isn't even this album, and as incredible as it is, he doesn't even consider it his best work. That wouldn't happen for a couple more albums yet.
Yeah, so this falls into Stevie Wonder, if you don't know, is R&B. Got to start as R&B singer in Motown, little Stevie Wonder, known mostly for ballads and stuff. But come the 70s R&B is my favorite R&B, Paul. It's funky. So I have like 3 albums that I just adore from this kind of era. It's this album, Innervisions, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On,
Yep,
and the Superfly soundtrack by Curtis Mayfield.
Hell yeah.
Like all those 3 albums just have like this kind of similar vibe, For Stevie Wonder, though, this falls when he's in his 20s, and it's called his classic era. It begins with Music on My Mind, followed by Talking Book, which is fantastic.
Yep.
Innervisions, Fulfilling This is first finale, and then Songs in the Key of Life. And Songs in the Key of Life, this is all in a short burst of time.
Yeah.
These are just like each year. So like I would say there's probably like a 6-year, and Songs in the Key of Life is a double album with an extra EP with it.
And that's the one that he considers to this day to be his masterpiece. That he says is his best work, is Keys in the Song of Life. Yep.
I wouldn't argue with it. I love that album. I just think it's sprawling. It's like when we did the Zappa album. It gets to be a little overwhelming at times. That's why I went with Innervisions, because it's a pretty compact, solid.
It's just, I'm so glad you went with this one, honestly, versus Key of Life. I mean, Key of Life, we can touch briefly on it. Exactly. It's sprawling. It's genius. And yes, it's a wonderful piece of work, but to listen to it for a review of, trying to get through that multiple times in a week-long period, and give it its due would be it's a bit of a daunting task. And I think also, if you know, and if you don't know, look, go check it out. I mean, but yeah, I think you and I would have been like, man, by the end of it, it'd be like, it's just too much Stevie, but it's so good if you're not listening to it for a review. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah. Plus, it had been a very long-winded review because there's so much material on there.
Hell yeah.
So we're doing Innervisions, which is the third in this sprawling short burst of like incredible music genius that he did. That he was never really able to replicate, but he did just fine with his pop stuff in the 80s, like a lot of classic artists. Bowie did the same thing.
Yep, absolutely.
Not taking away from the 80s stuff of Bowie or Wonder. It's just really mostly not my thing. But the 70s of those guys are fantastic.
For me, Bowie is like an anomaly in that regards, where I really did appreciate a lot of the things, even the weird, even some of the ballady stuff, like the Modern Love and that type of thing. And then, like, again, for him to kind of reinvent himself kind of in that unusual and pseudo-industrial techno Lynchian thing that he did, especially with Deranged in the 90s. Like, David Bowie's one of those people where, like, I can kind of go with it, you know what I mean? And I think I would be better off like with like a lot of bands if they were to have kind of done another revision. But the problem that I think happened with a lot of the classic artists, unfortunately, like Stevie and some of the others, was after the kind of the drawl and the doldrums that were the 80s, a lot of them couldn't get themselves out of that mode and move along into the 90s and the 2000s fairly well. And that's nothing to say, again, not about the musical genius, but again, think about it too. He's 20 in 1973 when he's making this album. So, you know, you're in your 40s now when you're getting into the 90s. It's you're a different person.
Yeah, you're a different person and different kind of music interests you. So like, what he was doing really didn't interest me. I can still appreciate the genius of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, but I'm still just this 70s era. And it is funky, Paul. It is funky.
It's funky and it's fantastic.
And
You know me, I love me some funk.
Oh, yeah. And I figured this would be up your alley, too, just because it's so musically fucking, again, genius. It's the arrangements and the production and the fact that he mostly plays all the instruments on the song.
That's the thing. Yeah, most of these songs, he's like a Beck. It's just him. And there's a lot of instruments. There's a lot of instrumentation going on. Yeah, so
he even kind of created his own style of drumming with the hi-hat. And you hear it when we'll talk about Living for the City. He kind of invented for himself this slushy, which, you know, I don't think was a lot of people were doing at the time either. Like, he had his own like way.
Yeah, he did. Like, and he was one of the first really also adopters of the Moog, you know, the Moog and the Tonto synthesizers, and so you definitely hear it on this, and he uses it again for him being such an early adopter and kind of setting the tone. I think for a lot of people went along. I mean, Giorgiani, he really kind of was the godfather of Moog. But I think Stevie Wonder became the blueprint for the Moog, if that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely. And that's also his Fender Rhodes electric piano too. He kind of
yeah,
regular piano for the Fender, which is also very important in the sound of this album.
Very, and it's what gives it that classic funk. God, it's so good. All right.
Let's do the track by track now, Paul.
All righty, buddy.
Let's start with an anti-drug song that very much sounds like a drug song. Too High.
It does sound like a pro-drug song, doesn't it?
This is I imagine this is a good song to listen to while you're on your edibles, Paul. You dirty stoner. dirty stoner. Yeah, I absolutely love this song. You know, too high, I'm too high. Oh, and just the thing that Stevie does, and it's not just Stevie, but I feel like Stevie again set the blueprint for a lot of what was going on, or at least if he didn't set the blueprint, he perfected it. Is the arrangements of what he's doing and kind of picking these fourths and fifths that don't typically go with, like, you know, that became kind of that funk thing. So you get that right off the bat when you're going into it. Now, unfortunately, yeah, it actually does sound like a very pro drug song. You know, I mean, just I'm too high, but I ain't touched the sky. I mean, come on. But then you get to the verses, and you know, even this doesn't sound too bad. She's a girl in a dream. She sees a four-eyed cartoon monster on the TV screen. She takes another puff and says it's a crazy scene. That red is green and she's a tangerine. I'm too high. And I'm like, that's not really a bad thing, Stevie. But then we get to the end and she fucking dies. And you're like, oh, that's a bummer. Yeah. Which then, and like also what I love about this song, which is how it starts, that do 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 do. It reminds me of kind of like what Zappa was kind of doing.
Oh yeah,
like I'm not a musician. Like, what would you call it? Because it seems like very off, but it's still musically correct.
Yeah, it's basically dissonance. And
Dissonance, yeah.
yeah, it's dissonance.
But not like in the David Lynch dissonance. It's more like it's so slightly that it's just like, whoa, wait a second. It kind of makes you pay attention to it.
Yeah, so a lot of composers use this, and that's why because Zappa I would consider more of a composer than I would a musician. Stevie I'd consider more of a composer than a musician in terms of they're writing essentially classical music and then converting it into what is a modern take on it. So what you have is these wonderful things that we really lose in modern pop music, which typically is just bass and rhythm, right? It's the not the bass, it's the rhythm and the chorus. I mean, that's all it is. Harmonies are kind of been out for a long time. Other things have been out, but in doing this, there's other ways in the scales that still work. But because we are not accustomed to it in terms of, like, you go back to a lot of classical music from 1700s and earlier, you hear a lot of this. But as music became more mainstream and easier to digest, it just kind of got lost. So Stevie does it, Zappa does it, and a lot of fat jazz and funk use it a lot. Because it does exactly as you said. You pay attention, you're like, because you think it's going to go one way and it doesn't, but it's still musically correct, but it's not in the correct way that you're familiar with it. So you're like, wait, what is that? And I love music that does that.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's and people that remember, like, he's putting this, like, unlike Zappa would say, he's putting this into like a more digestible pop song, which is like, I wish more bands would do this sort of thing. I wish there was more innovation and more taking influences outside of, what we're mostly seeing these days. Like, fuck, man, this is like jazz. Like, the music on this album is like all over the map. There's like so many influences.
And there's so many influences. There's so many genres, and it's a fusion. It's a straight up fusion album. And it's masterfully done, especially for it being in the early 70s, one guy doing it. It's fucking masterful is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, and I was actually thinking about it, Paul. So like pop music and R&B music and rock music as it was known as we know it. But when this album's made, it's only like 23 years old.
Right.
Right. That's really weird to think about. I think like they're more, I don't know, maybe there's more of a push to like push the limits as opposed to today, or maybe today is just, it's such a money-making venture that people just don't want to take the risks. I have no idea.
I think a lot of it is, okay, so I took choir for 13. I'm not ashamed to admit this. I took choir for 13 years. I'm self-taught on 7 different instruments. I've been in 4 different bands. I never once learned how to read or write music. Never. I learned by ear. And like people, they're my teachers and things like that. They hated this. I learned guitar from first learning the chords and tab, but then being able to listen to what other things were doing and hearing the notes and being able to put, that's a G chord, that's a C chord, that's a G sharp, that's a major, that's a minor, without learning how to read or write it. I started creating songs based around these chord structures that I was able to kind of pick out and do things with. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm the only one that does that. And I think the art of composing, the art of sitting down and writing music in a classical sense and not a pop or a mainstream or a modern sense is really, really lost. I don't think there's a lot of artists out there right now that could write a real true harmony piece or a real true, I think if you took 100 bands and 100 artists from all different facets across the genres, outside of like maybe the funk and the blues and some of the more ones that actually kind of are not in the mainstream, you're not going to have people that can do what this is being done. And that's where, and unfortunately, is a dying art.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of glad when was it John Baptiste got the album of the year last year for like pretty much very much a world music vibe album, jazzy album. So it's out there. It's just not popular.
No, and that's something that Zappa railed against a lot of times. He's like, look, why are we not encouraging world music? Why are we being so ethnocentric when it comes to our music? Why are we not introducing all these different things? Why are we not teaching our kids all these different instruments and all these different ways of writing music? And he's like, we're going to lose it, and it's going to become boring, and it's going to become stale, and it's going to become sheen. And look what happened. He was completely right. He saw it coming.
Yeah. So now we go into probably, I think this is my either favorite or second favorite, Visions.
Visions, yes.
I love the guitar on here. And I love it. This is one of those songs that just kind of calm me down. Like, if I'm having a real shit day, I can put this on and just kind of, my blood pressure will just kind of drop a bit.
One thing
it's a very introspective song too.
It's a very introspective song. And one of the things that I will say that I also found with this song is I think it also is kind of the precursor to what you would see not only on the Key of Life, but also what you would see in the 80s. Like, this is, you listen to this, I can hear where that evolution was made to Sunshine of My Life, and I Just Called to Say I Love You, and some of those other things. Like, this is kind of the early genesis of that, in my opinion, when I listen to it.
Yeah, for me, it has more to say than those other songs, which is, I get the style, but like here, he's like, he's basically, my take is he's trying to see a paradise of sort, but it's just it's a vision in his mind.
Yeah, lyrically it's nowhere near that stuff, but I'm just saying musically I could hear it. Instrumentally, yes, you got some wonderful lyrics here. People hand in hand, have I lived to see the milk and honey land, whereas hate's a dream and love forever stands, or is this a vision in my mind? A law was never passed, but somehow all men feel that they are true at last. Have we really gone this far through space and time, or is it a vision in my mind? There's some deep stuff here. I mean, this is a very introspective, and again, it leads to the Innervisions, right? Like, this is an inner vision he's having about his wanting society to be in a place where in the 70s, it was a really rough time.
Yeah, 70s, and it was. It was, yeah. And like, I love it. And this is going on in this very peaceful sounding song. Yeah. And I love it because he kind of does like what we've talked about, like what we like with Lynch movies, where it just kind of stays a little too long to make you feel a little uncomfortable. This song feels like it was like he extended it just slightly to make it a little more uncomfortable, because like it stops and then the guitar just comes back, and I giggle at that just because I love shit like that.
Yeah, you and I both love that, right? And I appreciate the kind of the quirky, the odd timing, the extended things. So yeah, I mean, this song is really just awesome. Yeah.
And it blends perfectly into probably, now this is my favorite Stevie Wonder song, just because it has a story, with a fucking groove to it, Paul, that his keyboard riff, like, in the drumming, so Living for the City, which is a very politically charged song. It's it's a rough life in the city.
Yeah, I mean, the song is eventually about a guy living, a black man, I'm not gonna say guy, a black man living during the Mississippi in the civil rights era, and just all the problems that he's having in terms of the hardships of family, and then moving away and getting in a different type of equality. There's a lot here, and I love like the spoken interlude in it. This is just a glorious song.
Yeah, I mean, it just paints a picture. It's like the character comes from a poor background.
Yeah.
Jobs were not paying. People are barely getting by, and then the character goes to New York, gets arrested, 10 years in prison.
Yep.
Comes out and he's homeless.
Yep.
I mean, it's a lot to unpack in a song, you know, and what I like about it too is because like you get that little skit in the middle. And it feels like we're kind of like on the same, not the same, but similar in that as Stevie is that, you know, we don't see what's happening, but we can hear.
Yes.
And that just to me is really interesting.
That he does that audio kind of, letting us listen. Again, we're on the same page there. Yeah, I mean, the lyrics, a boy is born in Hardtime, Mississippi, surrounded by four walls that ain't so pretty. His parents give him love and affection to keep him strong, moving in the right direction, living just enough for the city. His father works some days for 14 hours, and you can bet he barely makes $1. His mother scrubs the floor for many, and you better believe she hardly gets a penny. I mean, and it's just, it goes down, and then you get him into the city, and again, that interlude is there, and you're getting everything that's kind of happening there, and then you're kind of like, oh man, you know, you would think it's leading you up to like, hey, he's going to get to the city, he's going to make it, and then it flips the script on you. Again, for the average white listener, I'm going to say that, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, oh, fuck. Yeah, yeah, but a really, really poignant song, and honestly, I'm surprised it didn't get more heat for the story it was telling at the time, but I think he wrapped it up in such a palatable package that it was hard for anyone not to like it.
Yeah, I mean, because it is catchy. And he does these things with lyrics too, which I like. Is he kind of like rearranges like these kind of sayings. So he does it here with to find a job is like a haystack needle. You know, it's like a needle in this haystack, and he does it on Visions. He talks about like the milk and honey land, you know, which is flip the land of milk and honey. So I kind of like that little twist on lyrics too, to make the imagery work. And like you still get the old timey sayings, but it doesn't have to be like the way we kind of remember them.
100%. Yes. Okay. I'm with you. It's so, he is just prolific on every genre. Like I said, he is there's nothing musically he can't do. And that's not me saying, like, trying to be like, oh, I really don't think you could sit him in a room and be like, here, do this, and he's going to have it done within a week. It's just, the guy's fucking good, whether it be lyrically, composing, or playing. Yeah.
All right. So next we have Golden Lady.
Golden Lady.
It's one of his love song ballads. Again, but there's kind of like more here than what you typically get from a love ballad, musically and lyrically.
Oh yeah. There's again a lot. I mean, he was really, I think this is why a lot of people loved his ballads in the 80s, because it was still, that imagery was there. You know, a touch of rain and sunshine made the flower grow into a lovely smile that's blooming. And it's so clear to me that here's a dream come true, that there's no way that I'll be losing a golden lady. I'd like to go there. You know, looking at your hands can understand, waiting for the chance just to hold your hand. There's that play in lyrically that he's in the lyrics that he's doing, that kind of that double speak.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
So good. But since I'm not a huge fan of the ballads, I'm going to move on.
Fair. I do want to say this is
song
another
that Dan Marison ripped off.
Well, before we get there, I do want to say this is another one of those songs that I also felt was like a precursor, like the origins of what we would get later in the 80s. Like, again, you listen to this and you go, I can see how we got Sunshine of Your Life. I can see how we got some of those other ones. So there was brewing here early. It's just, it came out in the 80s. But yes, let's move on to Dan Marison.
Dan Marison rip this off for that song on All the Gods Kill. This is an interesting song because it's catchy as hell, but like the lyrics are kind of like, holy fuck, because he's dealing with some heavy things here.
Yes.
I'm so darn glad he let me try again, because my last time on Earth, I lived a whole world of sin. So I'm glad that I know more than I knew then. Going to keep on trying till I reach my highest ground.
Yeah. Dude, this is okay. It's amazing that we've dealt with like last week's album with Tears for Fears, and then going into this, like very dense, very dark,
like personal
anxieties and issues and things like that. The difference there between what we had last week and this week is this is packaged in a far more fun package, and the lyrics and things match it, where again 10 years later from this album, Tears for Fears would kind of do the same thing, but as you said, in your words, you took that as clown music. So it would have been interesting to see what would have happened had Tears for Fears not had the 80s and had been doing it on tape and things like that, like Stevie did. I bet you would have gotten something a little bit different. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just so good. People keep on learning, soldiers keep on warring, world keeps on turning because it won't be too long. People keep on lying while your people keep on dying, or powers keep on lying while your people keep on dying. World keeps on turning because it won't be too long. Dude, it's so good. It's just it's saying so much here, but it's so simple and it's so deep.
Yeah, I mean, the higher ground basically is just trying to reach that to be a better person. You know what I mean? Just kind of, and there's probably the religious stuff in there. I'm not a religious scholar. You know more about religion.
I do.
He has some of that on here, but like it's not preachy.
No, and the thing is that Stevie. Okay, so I follow some of that stuff, and I got in a little bit of the transcendental meditation as well. You know that. Mm-hmm. And there are these messages of that, and Buddhist and samsara and karma and things like that, and nirvana being the highest of the spiritual grounds, and that's where a lot of this comes from. Is it's not just Christianity. He's taking all these different religions, and that's the whole thing with the higher ground. It's kind of like the moving of the chakras, as it were. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then we go into Jesus, Children of America.
Love this song.
Yeah, I love this because it feels like a song that could have been on Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On." It definitely feels in that vibe, just kind of like that bass, like that kind of slower and minor key sounding bass, and it for a song that's kind of like about kind of like talking about Jesus, and it has this like really dark vibe to it. Well, very seedy vibe. It feels like something you'd hear in a Scorsese movie in the 70s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it has that. But what I really think, again, this is something that's been going on for a long time. Again, this album was made in 1973, and let's point it out here. He's calling out, and I know Christians, people are getting like, blah, blah, blah. And yes, it's mainly because Christianity in America is the main form of religion, or not the main, but the majority. And he's really pointing out the pros and cons, not of hitchhiking, Joe, of religion here, of organized religion, of, you have the right things, but then you have the people that are doing the wrong things, like holy roller. Are you standing like a soldier? Are you standing for everything we talk about?
Which is, because there's a lot of the platitudes from, religious people, and they don't really, back up the message with their actions. Mm-hmm. So you have these people, like, especially in the 70s when Vietnam's going on, very much in the Bible, thou shalt not kill, although there's still the eye for the eye. The Bible's full of contradictions.
Yes.
That's just what it is. But he's kind of calling them out.
Yeah, he is. He's absolutely calling him out on this.
Because, like, you got, like, something like Martin Luther King, who put his money where his mouth was with that.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have like these others that are like hobnobbing with Nixon in the White House, Billy Graham.
Billy Graham. And you see that, I mean, you see that today. I mean, you saw that with
you saw that with Trump.
You saw that with Trump. Yeah.
You saw it with Bush a lot, and it's just like, but Trump was one thing because I just knew whatever. I'm not going to spiel, but like the Bush one was, especially with the two wars going on at the same time, like that really jaded me a bit.
Oh, absolutely. Again, it's, you know, religion has become, at least when, you know, anything, when it becomes an institution, eventually what happens is the money takes over and it becomes a fucking, you know, it loses what it was, because the power and the grab for money is just so tempting that you got to go where the money leads. And you see that a lot of times, and, you know, I love songs, you know, I love songs like this, when you can tell someone is truly is the paragon of what the religion is supposed to be about, calling out those that aren't. Like when he's singing this song, you can really tell that he is devout in his beliefs, and he is interpreting it the way it's supposed to be interpreted, not I know people go, there's no, there is a wrong way to interpret it, and too many people are interpreting it the wrong way. And Stevie Wonder and myself and thousands of other people will tell you to fuck off. So there you go. Thank you, Stevie. Thank you.
I mean, you have to remember, 70s. It's you know, it's a crisis of faith, I'd imagine he was going through, especially. But I mean, sometimes you got to say it, just go out and say it. And he did in song form. He called you all out.
Well, again, and you look at it, he realized the hypocrisy of Christianity, even though he's devout still, but he looked at the other religions, Buddhism, you know, transcendental meditation, things like that, to find some of those answers. And he was able to create the puzzle, as it were, or complete the puzzle, as it were, of, wait a minute, these are these right here are the real teachings we should be focusing on. And that's the peace, that's the loving, that's the not killing thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. And then we go into probably the song that I don't really care for on the album. All in Love is Fair. It's a love song. I'm not much of a ballad person. Well, I like some, but it just...
Okay, I know it's not a concept album, but I look at this as Golden Lady Part 2. That's why I like this one, because I thought just a couple songs ago, we were talking about how he's never going to lose this person, and now all of fate's a chance. It's either good or bad. I toss my coin to say, in love with me you'd stay, but all in war is so cold. You either win or lose. When all is put away, the losing side I'll play. So I thought I kind of looked at that as like, wow, he's looking at both sides now when I take Golden Lady and this, and kind of showing the yin and the yang, as it were, to a relationship.
Yeah, so, yeah, I get, but I'm just, this also feels very much like another one of the patient zero of, I just called to say I love you sound.
Yes, again, it's all there, right? It's
all there.
It's all there. We've talked about that. Yeah, it's all there. All right, now we get to the big power one, Joe.
Don't you worry about a thing.
Don't you worry about a thing. Okay, this song has been covered by more people than I think, not maybe any song, but by such a range. Jacob Collier, who's another a friend of mine introduced me to, is a musical wonder kid. Did a great version of this. Boney James, Carmen McRae, Incognito, Tori Kelly, The Main Ingredient, John Legend, excuse me. It goes on and on and on. Mink, David Axelrod. There are so many covers of this song, and it's no wonder. The song is a fucking banger.
Yeah, it's great, and it starts with like him speaking Spanish and I think Arabic.
I could be. I love it. I'm here for it.
But yeah, this is a banger. This is
I love that opening.
For me, when Stevie goes funky, that's the best Stevie.
That is the best Stevie. And I love this song because I really think this one here, I interpret as like, now we're seeing kind of the kinkier side of Stevie Wonder. Like this just reeks to me like a let's try new things in the bedroom song. That's
very much kind of a Prince vibe going.
Oh yeah, this is like, hey, don't you worry about this. We're gonna try this, and you're gonna be just fine. Oh yeah, yeah. We're gonna kink up the bedroom. Like this is definitely about pegging. Go on, Joe.
No, I love it.
I'm sorry, you were saying.
No, it's a horny song.
It's a horny song. Oh yeah, there's no like I could see where people are like, it's not a horny song, it's a drug song. No, it is not. No, it is not.
Some songs are up for debate, like interpretation. I find very little interpretation. So it could be about drugs, but I don't see any evidence.
People be like, it's a trip. No. Key thing here, don't you worry about a thing, mama, because I'll be standing by your side when you check it out, when you get off your trip. Come on. No. Yeah, this is a horny song. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yep, yeah, it's a banger.
It's such a banger. It's
More
such
people
a great
need
song.
to listen to this song.
I'm going to pull this up here. There's an actual spreadsheet, Joe, of how many people have covered this song, and I'm just going to do a quick count here, real quick, while you continue the next song.
Everybody loves to hear "Dead Air" as Paul counts the covers. Anyway, yeah, the next song is because I'm gonna move along. Mm-hmm. He's a Mr. Know-It-All, Paul. Very much a scathing indictment of one Richard Milhouse Nixon. This is kind of back in the day when people thought, man, there's no way we could do worse than Nixon.
Yeah.
Fortunately, America has a hold my beer mentality.
We do have a hold my beer mentality, don't we? It's very. I mean, even I knew that this was about Nixon, and without even before even looking up the Wikipedia, I'm like, this feels like it's about Nixon.
Makes a deal with a smile, knowing all the time his lie's a mile.
Yeah.
All. Oh yeah, Nixon. He was just racked over the coals by all musicians in the 70s, and yeah, I mean, it oddly, by today's standards, Nixon would pretty much be considered one of the more liberal presidents we've had.
Isn't that crazy?
The Clean Air and Water Act and opening dialogue with China, and,
right? Yeah. No, it's definitely one of those things where
he was still a piece of shit, though.
Yes, he was.
If you want to read one of the most hilarious things about Nixon, read Hunter S. Thompson's obituary, where basically is just, he gets torn to pieces. But this is another kind of like a really good song, and it's, it's more preachy, I think, than people were kind of expecting from Stevie with politics. But with Nixon, I don't think it was the politics. I think it was the fact that he was such a scumbag that, like, even Republicans didn't like him toward the end, because he upended a lot of the norms that we expected of the executive branch. So it was bipartisan, the hatred of Richard Nixon in his time.
Yeah. So I apologize if I seem a little thing there, Joe. So this database that I looked at, this thing of different versions, 109 covers, recorded covers of "Don't Worry About a Thing." That's how much of a banger that this song is. Yeah. That's crazy. But yeah,
I wonder how many times the songs this album's been sampled.
Oh, I would imagine a lot.
A lot. Stevie Wonder's music is just ripe for amazing hip hop sampling too. It's just
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
all like the jazzy and reggae and like classical, and like he has these little bits in here that when sampled it just takes it, could make an entire other song out of it. And that's just how much of a genius this guy is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Yeah, no, but getting back to Nixon, I also think one of the big issues with Nixon was it was, I mean, there was a time when people did not like liars. There was a time when we had you didn't have political parties and political members coming out and lying for the people. There was integrity. There was things, and I think when you look back at the time of Nixon, that's really where a lot of it came from, was this, oh man, we lost everything, after Nixon, it hurt everything, blah, blah, blah. And we can never admit that mistake again. And it's like, So yeah, I think with Nixon, you're exactly right. It wasn't the policies. It was the personality.
It was the betrayal.
It was the betrayal.
Lying to the nation about, crime. It wasn't a petty crime. People went to jail for it.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly stupid that he lied about it. And I think that's another thing that pissed people off, is just like, and like people that, we weren't even born yet. But once the Watergate hearings happened and people just kind of saw just how he's just doubling down, and like that used to be frowned upon. If you were wrong and you doubled down, people disliked you more. Now you're going to get a second term, Yep. No, and I will say this is a wonderful closing song for this album, by the way, too. Just musically, everything like that. Like it's a great spot to put it. Yeah. So that was Stevie Wonder's Innervisions, mostly with him playing every fucking instrument. And the wild part too is like he did like these like 5 albums, and he was touring while he was doing all this too.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't like he's just sitting around the studio for a year cranking these out. I think the guy was on tour and doing all like that kind of like that burst of prolific writing is just jaw-dropping to me.
Yeah, 100%. And to be able to do that, I mean, like again, he's out touring, he's doing these things, and he's making the next album. Like, holy shit! Like he was a truly working man's thing.
Yeah. That was like that kind of stuff slowed down, I think, when people started spending more time in the studio.
Well,
technology advanced, but like unfortunately, with the advancement of technology, it's kind of made music worse. I feel like because he's doing a lot with the limitations he had in the studio.
Yeah,
so he's playing those to the strength, so it sounds a lot better. Where today, like in Pro Tools, you can make any sound you want, and people are just making mumble rap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean mumble rap is. Well, we're gonna get
fine, but it's just like
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
The Innervisions type of productions, like we could do literally anything in the studio now. You can overlap your vocals like a million times. Like
when did Stevie though? Also, when did he have the car accident? Because I know he was
it was like I think a few days after this album came out.
Was it a few days after the album came out? Okay,
yeah, it was right when it came out, I believe.
Because I knew it was after this album, but I didn't know how long after the album.
He had that was another like which caused. Yeah, 3 days after the release of Innervisions, and that caused him to go even more bold and introspective and outrospective and all that. Like it just because he was in a coma.
Yeah, people thought it was fate. Like people thought he was going to die. Yeah.
So yeah, he came out of it. He lost the sense of smell for a long time. He worried that he wouldn't be able to record or perform. He came back like. What was the album he did after that, which was Fulfilling This' first finale, which is good, but then then Songs in the Key of Life, which I
Song in the Key of Life. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he had a 5-album string there with some of the best music ever recorded. It's wild. It's wild.
It's absolutely amazing.
He almost died, and he came back and he made even better music.
I know, right? I know, right? It's insane. It's insane when you think about it. Yeah, guy was fucking genius.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Joe, what was kind of the aftermath of the album? Like, how was it received and that type of thing?
Oh, it was generally well received, except for like I came across this on Wikipedia because I was just like, what kind of asshole would say this? So John Diven from Circus Magazine, which I'd imagine is now defunct. Just when Stevie had some momentum going, he went and put together a concept album of homogeneous music rather typical lyrics. Unlike his last 2 albums, there are no real low spots on this album, which I suppose is an improvement. There's no songs in Innervisions which are truly outstanding either. There's no Superstition, no I Believe When I Fall in Love Will Be Forever. By constructing solid ground from which to work, Stevie has lowered the ceiling and put a damper on his talents.
Yes. The album that had the song that there's 109 recorded covers for. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Living for the City, which has like probably one of the most memorable grooves to it, and Higher Ground, one of the biggest. I think it was like this album was album of the year.
Yeah, no shit. This fucking idiot. What is Circus? What the fuck is Circus?
Yeah, it's Clown Town, Chief.
It is. Well, it was
published from October '66 to May 2006. So,
well, thank God they're not around
being contrarian dipshits, I guess.
Yeah. Oh man, Kurt Loder was on it. That's all I needed to know. All right, go on.
MTV's Kurt Loder.
MTV's Kurt Loder got his start with the Circus Magazine. It looks like.
Yeah, those magazines. A lot of people got their. I mean, those are just counterculture music magazines. Where, I mean, to be fair, Rolling Stone was one, and that's where one of my favorite authors got his
start.
Break. So yeah.
And to be fair, Circus, it looks like it was devoted to rock music. So you get this album, of course, they're going to give it a negative review because it's not rock. So there.
Oh, and David Frick on there. Too.
Yeah, David Frick on there too.
Okay.
Yeah.
The man with the biggest boner for you too. I swear to God.
Oh my God, dude. Yeah, no, that was my old roommate. Yeah, I know this album, like it's gotten like 10 out of 10s and 5 out of 5s and A's and shit like that. So
yeah, it was very well received.
No shit, except for Circus Magazine. Eat a dick.
Yeah, Higher Ground was #1 U.S. R&B charts. Living for the City was #1 U.S. R&B charts. Don't you worry about it. Thing was #2 U.S. R&B charts.
Jesus Christ! This fucking guy thought he was being a genius. Give me wonder.
I don't know about this album.
I just wanted this album.
This is the Living for the City. Like, these are very uninspired lyrics.
Very trite.
Fucking nerd.
I tell you, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna listen to Stevie Wonder album and I'm gonna tell you it sucks.
John Tiven.
So Joe, let's get to our recommendations here. Would you recommend Innervisions by Stevie Wonder?
Yeah, I absolutely would. And I think it's a fantastic entry point for Stevie Wonder, too. Either this or Talking Book would be a great start. I mean, then you can kind of go off and attempt Songs in the Key of Life, which even for me, and I've owned that, I have it on vinyl and I've listened to it a lot. It's still it's a challenging listen.
It is.
Like when we talked about Joe's Garage, is that sometimes like these are just challenging listens.
Yeah,
so much kind of going on.
There's a lot going on there. I would agree with that. Yeah, I think there's this classic era. I think getting Sunshine of My, You Are the Sunshine of My Life, and Superstition on the same album. It's a good start. And then you can get to like True Funky Town with Innervisions and take off from there. Yeah, I think it's a wonderful starting point.
Yeah, either
from Stevie as well.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either. It's a guy at his creative peak.
Yeah.
Well, at least maybe on his version of creative peak, I'd argue maybe Songs in the Key of Life is his creative peak, and as you know, it still baffles people, and people love it, and there's people who just don't like it because it's too much, and I don't blame them. But
yeah,
for Innervisions, like it's compact, down to 9 tracks. It kind of gives you a taste of a bit from his past with the ballady stuff and a sense of where he's going after. So it's a great combination.
No, and I'm with you. I recommend the album. Yeah, I mean, who am I gonna fucking be like? Oh no, it's got 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10. Don't fucking look at that album. Yeah, no, I totally recommend it. It's if you haven't heard it, you're really just doing yourself a disservice musically. And
you're in for a treat when you do decide to listen to it, because it's wild. It's like the production, because Paul and I always talk about production, and sometimes we're on the same page and sometimes we're not. But this is the kind of thing which is like such a high point in production. It's just it's not too much. It's done just perfectly right. It has the right amount, which is like, it's hard to get that balance. As we talked about Tears for Fears last week, those songs are great, but they kind of went too far for me in some of the production choices, where this is a perfect kind of.
Yeah. And again, think about it. He was doing it himself.
Yeah, he was doing it all by himself.
I mean, there were some associate producers involved with it, but really, he was
people doing instruments on other songs here and there.
Yeah,
it was mostly
him. Like for example, okay, Too High, you had some backing vocals. Okay, fine. Visions, yeah, you had some people playing some of the other guitar work on it, and the bass.
Yeah. And then you have Living for the City, which is fucking wild. It's like, yep, that's all Stevie wanted.
It's all Stevie. Yep. Golden Lady, got a couple other people on it. Higher Ground, all fucking Stevie. Higher Ground is all fucking Stevie. Holy shit.
Jesus, Children of America, all Stevie.
Yep. All in Love is Fair. All you had a guy playing the bass. That's the only thing that Stevie didn't do. Don't you worry about a thing. Look, there's a guy playing the bongos and the shakers. Other than that, it's fucking Stevie.
Mr. Know-It-All. You got one guy playing electric bass.
Yep, it's all Stevie, and Stevie's producing this thing. Again, this is. I mean, I know. I would put Beck in this category. Like, he is, like, I think Beck was a big Stevie Wonder fan, because this is kind of what Beck was doing. Beck, I'm sure he was listening to Stevie and going, Stevie did all this shit himself. I can do all my shit myself. It's in the same level to me.
Yeah, Fred Reznor did the same thing with the first 9 Inch Nails albums. It was all him. It was all him. Fred Reznor, yeah. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, you can just do this yourself and not have to deal with other people. Fantastic.
Right. Absolutely.
And he kind of showed how to do it. And like, hell, I think he inspired like McCartney to an extent, because McCartney started just doing that with his self-titled albums.
Yep. And I think he started doing that with a couple of the Wings albums as well, didn't he?
No, Wings was the group, so yeah.
Oh, yeah, Wings was the group.
Like his like McCartney 2, especially McCartney 2, which I can hear a lot of Stevie Wonder on. A lot of this and a lot of songs from the Key of Life on McCartney 2. But yeah, it's wild, and I don't know if he was the first, probably not, but he's definitely one of the key figures of just doing it yourself. I'm going to play all the instruments, and I'm going to play them better than 99% of the people out there playing these instruments, which has got to be very humbling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I apologize. When I meant with Wings was, I thought he was doing a lot of the production for it, not all the instruments, but I thought he was doing a lot of the production.
Oh, he probably was. Yeah. But the McCartney stuff was him playing all the instruments.
All the instruments. Yes. Yeah. And didn't he do like a movie soundtrack as well, like some scores and things like that he was doing all himself as well. I mean, yeah. I mean, but again, it wasn't until Stevie was doing it.
Yeah. Yep. Stevie was. Yeah, he's a groundbreaker. It's fantastic, and it falls into like my favorite era of R&B, just like this funky, like this era also that gave me my favorite Miles Davis stuff was on the corner or on the street where he does the funky stuff too. It's just like it's just kind of like this. America was all funky and it was great, and now we have porridge radio.
Yeah, no, yeah, and yes, I was able to I had to do it. Yes, Paul McCartney was the producer for the Wings albums, so yeah, I just had to make sure of that. All right, Joe, what do you got? Let's do some plugs here, buddy. What do you guys got going on at the Joe down?
We just released the Exorcist 2 review.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck.
That fucking movie exists, huh?
Fuck, dude, it's so bad. Like when you told me that, I was just had flashbacks of like watching it for the first time, and they're doing this fucking weird hypnosis shit. And they got a goddamn fucking helmet with electrodes on fucking, and it's just like they're in the future and this fucking Jesus Christ, it's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, like the incomprehensible James Earl Jones scenes, which make no sense. So like also turns into a David Lynch movie. Like it's such a jarring transition in the story into like a hallucinatory thing that is like it almost felt like an early draft of like Lost Highway or Mulholland Drive. Like fuck what?
Yeah, except it makes less sense than those movies now.
Those at least you can kind of you feel like it makes sense, like even though like on paper it doesn't. Like that didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And then the next movie we're doing is Clerks.
Oh, nice. Have you seen the new one, Clerks 3?
Yep.
How was that? I haven't seen it yet.
I liked it. A lot of fans didn't. You'll understand why I think some people didn't like it when you see it. It's
pretty meta, right?
Huh?
Pretty meta, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's also pretty depressing.
Okay.
Because he's dealing with, it's about
his heart attack,
his own heart attack he had, and facing mortality and stuff. So you kind of have that going on with Randall. Randall has the heart attack and decides to make the Clerks movie. I liked it, and I haven't liked a Kevin Smith movie in a very long time, probably since Tusk or Red State. I don't know. I remember liking Tusk.
I like Tusk. I like Tusk.
I hated Yoga Hosers. I hated Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. I really hated Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. He did a Q&A and showed that at the Fargo Theater, and I went and saw it, and like we had to watch the movie first, and I was so mad I almost walked out on the Q&A because I was like, this movie's fucking terrible. That was the biggest horse piece of shit movie I'd ever seen.
Well, yeah, I didn't mind. I didn't mind it. I didn't like Yoga Hosers that much. There was the other one he did. What was it? I forget what it was called, with his daughter in it. I didn't like it. And yeah, Tusk I liked. But all I ever wanted was Mallrats 2, and we never got it. So, that's just my depression.
He's saying they're going to make it, man.
I at this point don't. At this point, don't.
All
right.
Dude, I don't know. I'm not his dad.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not his dad. All right. Well, Joe, before we get to my pick for next week, I just want to bring up our audience. Our audience is awesome, dude. So
I thought you were gonna be like, Joe, they're pissed at you for that Tears for Fears shit.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just want to bring up the fact that we're climbing even now a little bit, pacing above 100 listens a week now to our podcast. We've grown in popularity, bro. Top 3 countries: United States, Singapore, and the United Kingdom. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know if it's VPNs. I don't know what it is, guys. But yeah, the map is definitely growing. We apparently had new fans in Singapore. They apparently found us. This is a new one, but we're in Columbus, Austin, Los Angeles, Ashburn, Anchorage. We got found in Alaska, bro. Napa, Queens, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, Seattle, Waterloo. We're everywhere, bro. It's kind of nice. Yeah. Yep. Amsterdam. We made it in Amsterdam, Joe.
Sweet.
So I just want.
Is it weirds me. I can't wrap my head around people listening to us. Like, it's just so weird to me.
Isn't it weird? But I appreciate the shit out of it. Like, obviously,
thank you for listening to us. It's making me uncomfortable now.
Well, again, if you guys want more fan requests, you know how to hit us up. You can find us on SoundCloud. You can find us at the joedown.blog. You can find me on Facebook. You can find our Facebook page, the Pod Down. You can email us at talkingtwinpeaks@gmail.com. So, yeah, absolutely. We did not get a fan request, which means, Joe, I get to pick next week's album. And this is an album I've wanted to do a long time for us. And I just, Stevie Wonder doing, Don't Worry About a Thing with this horny song. I decided we're going to do Nathaniel Merriweather presents Lovage, music to make love to your old lady by.
All right, nice.
Yes. So, as you know, this is a collaborative project with Dan the Animator. Under the pseudonym Nathaniel Merriweather, that he made for a different project called Handsome Boy Modeling School. And it features Mike Patton and Jennifer Charles, Kid Koala, and Brandon Arnovic. So, yeah. I'm excited for that one for next week. I absolutely, I love the album. I'm interested to see what your take is on the album. And I think it's about time that we started hitting Mike Patton, because he's in so many different bands, and we're going to get to I know we're going to get to all of them at one point.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah.
I've seen him live. He was amazing.
I saw him live as well with Mr. Bungle, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I saw him with Peeping Tom.
Did you?
Yeah, they opened up for Gnarls Barkley. It was amazing. One of the best shows I ever saw.
Awesome. I saw him at was it the Mist or the Caboose? I think it was the Mist. It was
it was a sold out show at First Ave.
Nice.
And then a lot of shows sold out at First Ave. So it's wild there when it's sold out.
It is. I've been to a couple. Sold out shows in First Ave, and it's
been to 2. So yeah, and each time it's wild. It's a wild scene, man.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right. So, yep. So that's what we're going to do. Joe, do you have anything to bring up before we close out here, bud?
Not really, no. Oh, wait. Yeah, just because, I know our fans kind of like a lot of the stuff we do. I just want to let them know, if they don't, that Barnes & Noble has the Criterion shit at 50% off. This is not a paid ad or anything, but this is more like, hey, if you want to get that Lost Highway 4K like I did, now is the time to do it, because it's otherwise it's like $50. So
nice.
And I hadn't watched it. I hadn't seen Lost Highway since it came out on home video, and I had no idea what the fuck back then, because I was pretty young and all sorts of other things I don't want to talk about on here, because I want to remain employed.
Sure. Yep, absolutely.
So I watched it for the first time, and I fucking loved it, Paul. And you were so right when we were watching The Return and messaging each other, that The Return was very much feeling like Lost Highway.
Yeah, very much like Lost Highway.
Yeah,
yeah,
mix of Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive. Yeah. And so I got that in The Elephant Man, because
awesome.
I didn't have that. So
I personally love Lost Highway. That was one of my true first instant, like my true, I think, deep dive into David Lynch. That's really what opened up. I've seen some other things, in that time frame, and I was like, whatever, we had Twin Peaks, but I was too young to understand what David Lynch meant and everything like that. And of course I love Dune, but that's not really a typical David Lynch movie.
Yeah, it's hard for me to call that a Lynch movie. It has a lot of Lynchian stuff in it, but it really doesn't fall.
Yeah.
It's like when I think of his movies, I never think of Dune.
Yeah, it just
and I have a feeling he doesn't either.
I don't think he does. But Lost Highway, I remember going and seeing and falling in love with it, and what is happening here, and the whole deep dive and getting into the whole duality that Lynch really likes to show. And like I said, there was a lot of the return in it. So I'm so glad that you finally got to see it again and appreciate it for what it is, because it is fucking great.
Yeah, and the 4K transfer is fantastic. It's like the Criterion stuff is just great. I have the 4K of Mulholland Drive.
Nice.
That's another it just pops off the screen. So
That's so awesome.
Tonight I will be watching The Elephant Man because I bought that too, and I haven't seen that in a few years. I love that movie though too.
It's such a good movie. Yeah, I actually ended up getting, because of you, the Criterion app, actually the streaming service. So,
Nice.
yeah. But no, I think that's absolutely awesome. And again, if you're in those things, my fans, I think you'd absolutely love that.
Yeah. Just the heads up on the deal, because I'm a frugal person, so I wait until shit's on sale. So again, we're not stumping for ad revenue from Barnes and Noble or whatever. Hey, if you want to pick it up and get it for $25 instead of $50, now's the time to do it.
No, smart. No, guys, we don't do paid ads here. Again, we don't make any money on this. We discussed that in another episode earlier, where that's not really our bag on this show. We're not really trying to make money on this. We just want to give you guys entertainment from the land of Minnesota. All right,
Dakota, Chief.
North Dakota. Fine, the Midwest, pig fuckers. We're gonna you from the Midwest. God damn it.
Damn it.
God damn it. You're always fucking it up, Muad'Dib. You ruined the universe. You created a jihad, Muad'Dib. All right. Joe, do you want to take us out?
No.
This has been Rate That Album with Paul Muad'Dib and Joe Fremming. Thank you for listening.